Welcome Wargamers to another bit of Age of Sigmar news, and we are keeping up to date with all of the little spoilers and teasers that are coming out about the future battletomes, that is, the Idoneth Deepkin and the Fire Slayers battletomes, which I think are coming out here pretty soon. I mean, normally that's when they start doing these previews for us. And today's has to do with the Deepkin book, specifically regarding the Achillean Alapex, which is the shark chariot thing. Keep in mind, we just finished talking about the Leviathan, I think in my last news deal, so the Deepkin have a lot coming, and I think that's amazing because they needed a lot, and I don't think that's a really crazy out there idea. It seems to be the general consensus. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to read the article. I haven't actually read it myself. We're going to read it together, and then I'm going to pause at the end and just kind of give my thoughts about it and that kind of stuff. If you like these kinds of videos, please let me know in the comments down below. I know for a lot of folks it helps them keep up with the Age of Sigmar news machine, as it were. And if you'd like to support this kind of content as well as other stuff, just various things, please consider becoming a member on my Patreon or right here as a member on YouTube. It's life-changing stuff, and I'm deeply thankful for each and every one of you. Now let's talk about the article here. It's called "The Achillean Alapex is Bloodthirstier Than Ever in the New Battletome Idoneth Deepkin." The recent Age of Sigmar Battletome roadmap unveiled a whole host of upcoming new battletomes, and riding the first wave, heyo, are the Idoneth Deepkin. We've already shown off powerful new abilities for the Nautilar Enclave, that's the one with the giant turtle, with their Leviathans as Battleline units. Today, we'll be looking at another of the Idoneth's bond beasts, the hungering Achillean Alapex. These murderous mounts are receiving some welcome improvements in the era of the beast. Each hit of the Razor Shell Harpoon Launcher now inflicts D3 damage, so if your enemy doesn't fall prey to your giant shark's tearing maw, they'll most certainly feel the pain when they're struck full of harpoon spears. And then it kind of gives us the weapon profile here, 24-inch range, which is great on a chariot as a weapon because these guys can move around so fast. 4 attacks each, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, -1 rend, and D3 damage. Now, that's a fantastic profile. I think it's great. I think it's a great gun to be able to clear things off of objectives. Like, if you have an objective with like a hero or something small that you need to get off of it, like an opponent's model, what a great gun for that. Also, you got stuff like, totally not Overwatch, that kind of thing, I think are really cool. Meanwhile, a new ability called a Merciless Shiver allows Alapex units with more than one model to remain coherent within 3 inches of each other instead of 1 inch. Sharks value their personal space, and this ability will ensure that these vast and agile predators can stay mobile when facing down foes. That's a really cool one. I don't remember seeing many units of Alapexes, like in terms of multiple. A lot of times people take them as just one-offs to be able to just kind of pose some particular threat in a certain area of the board. But I'm wondering if that's going to be more useful, having units of 2, maybe 3 of these guys just going around the board. I like it. And honestly, if they're going to give them that option, if you're going to have the option to have multiples in a single unit, then I do think that having the ability to kind of space each other out a little bit was super important. So I'm glad that they added that. While Alapexes can be commanded by any of the Idoneth factions, these vicious Selecian sea predators are particularly beloved. Man, someone opened up their thesaurus today. Oh my gosh. Particularly beloved by the Fullthon Enclave, who are just as bloodthirsty as their deadly mounts. To reflect this, players who choose the Fullthon Enclave will now be able to take Alapexes as Battleline units. Now, I'm going to pause there for just a hot second. Their ability to be Battleline, I think, is far less dramatic than the Leviathans. And I say that because there's tons of armies where chariot options can become Battleline. I don't think that's super unique. And this is functionally the Deepkin chariot. So I think that's pretty cool. I don't think it's crazy at all. Fullthon, I believe, is the enclave that a lot of people love right now. I don't keep up with Deepkin news all that much, but it's cool that they get more of a hungering, I guess just monster vibe, and I like that a lot. Fullthon Alapexes are particularly known for their aggressive skill when hunting in groups. As such, you can also take 3 of a single Alapexes in special formation known as a bloodthirsty Shiver. These Alapexes are individual units, but you'll want them swimming together to unleash their full potential. I'm going to pause right there. This also exists in the Maggotkin of Nurgle book. Let me just double check here what it's called. Yes, if you have a Filthbringer's army, it's like a sub-faction, you can have something called a Rot Coven, which is essentially one unit. You buy it once, and you get 3 Rotbringer sorcerers. So it looks like the same thing. If you pick this sub-faction, you get this access to a one quote-unquote unit in terms of you're paying 1 set of points for 3 individual Alapex units that have some kind of cool gimmick when they work together. Now, why would you do that? It's like literally the answer they say next. Why? In your combat phase, you can pick 1 Alapex from each bloodthirsty Shiver in your army and give it that model a deadly buff to its ferocious bite attack. For the rest of the phase, every unmodified hit roll of 6 lands an extra hit, or 2 extra hits if it's within 3 inches of another unit in the same bloodthirsty Shiver. It's perfect for ripping apart foes after your Namarti Reavers put some blood in the water. And then we have the actual rules here, so I'll read through. It's the Fullthon Allegiance ability, Bloodthirsty Shiver. You can include Bloodthirsty Shivers in your army. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick 1 unit from each Bloodthirsty Shiver in your army, and if you do so, until the end of that phase, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with that unit's ferocious bite is 6, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. Make a wound roll and save roll for each. If the attacking unit is within 3 inches of 1 or more units from the same bloodthirsty Shiver, its ferocious bite scores 3 hits on an unmodified 6 roll instead. So it looks like you get 3. Let me just double check here. Yes, take 3 units of single Alapexes in a special formation. So you have 3 of them to start with. They can all act independently, and then the Fullthon ability is if you have 2 that are near each other when your elected one does his bite attack. So you're never going to get full benefit, like you don't get 4 hits if all 3 of them are within 3 inches of each other, nothing like that. But it is a cool idea. Now what's interesting is that in this article, they don't actually show what the attack profile of the bite is, like how many base attacks you get, and that's going to matter a lot, because if you only get, like, say, 1 bite attack, well, yeah, on a 6 it could explode, but I mean, that's a far cry different from if it gets 4, for example, where the odds of having, your attacks blow up and magnify is much higher. And then at the end here, with so many battletomes inbound, sign up for our newsletter. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pull up a cool picture and we'll have ourselves a chat. So one of the things I saw online when this article was first posted in the comments is folks saying, like, how many Battleline if options does any given army need? And for me personally, man, I love Battleline if options. I think that is such a fun and unique way to add flavor to a sub-faction, giving them ways to incorporate models that really define them and their tactics in new and unique ways. So many models, I just think they need more ways to become Battleline. As far as Fullthon goes, we have no idea what their rules are going to look like. I know there's a lot of sour taste in people's mouths based on they're kind of like the default faction, or enclave, I should say, that a lot of players go to right now. We don't know if that's going to be that way in the future, so, why get excited? But that being said, if you're trying to represent a very aggressive monster-like faction, having, eels and sharks come and rip you apart is super thematic, and I like it. Now, these guys did get an update in, the Broken Realm series? Was that the most recent one they got? I think so. And it dramatically changed them, because they used to be a unit that you'd almost never see, and then they changed it to where there's a net launcher on the harpoon gun that can pin enemy units down so they can't pile in, which is a huge control feature that is really cool. And so I'm excited to see what the kind of new iteration is. Now I'm curious if the ability for Fullthon to take them and have, their little, like, unique subgroup of Alapexes is that factored into how they're balanced and pointed? Because I don't want a situation where, they're only good in Fullthon because of that rule, but they're kind of crap everywhere else. That would not be fun. Balancing things like that kind of are on my mind when I read rules like this, but on the whole, I am very excited about it because it's probably one of my favorite models ever. Like, just the shark riding harpoon firing from the back. It's so cool. The image you see on the screen is enough to make me almost want Deepkin as an army, because this is about all that I would ever want, just a bunch of Alapexes now that they can be Battleline. But I'm not sold yet enough, so we'll put that in the back burner. And beyond that, it's not a lot to talk about because, it's a cool insight. I like the way that they are leaning into some of these cool formations that are sub-faction specific. They don't have to be book defining. It's just a cool option if you take Fullthon. I like that. It's same thing with the Nurgle one I was mentioning earlier. I like that there's just these little nuggets of uniqueness within the sub-factions, and I hope it continues. I would love to start seeing some more articles that aren't about army composition. Like the Leviathan one was interesting because the Leviathan is such a centerpiece model and such a brick. It really does draw the line in the sand. Whereas, with Alapexes, if you're not taking Fullthon, you'll probably have two, maybe, I don't know. But having them be Battleline, I feel like doesn't necessarily have as much momentous impact on your design and how the faction's going to play as it does for some others. My point is, I would love to start seeing, show me some spells, show me some ways that we can start synergizing these cool lists that we're learning that we can build. Because exploding sixes on your Maw attack is really nice, but what kind of spells can augment that? Like, what can we do to make that ridiculous? Or they don't call them spells. The Deepkin right now have these Ether Sea rituals they can all cast as the heroes work together, which I almost never see anybody actually use those. But it's a thing that exists in their design. So show me how those can be meaningfully impactful on units like this. So anyway, there's not a whole lot to this article. Like I said, I don't think it's as momentous as Leviathan's getting Battleline, but I do love the Alapex model. I like that they haven't forgotten about it just because it got a new War Scroll in Broken Realms. And I'm excited to see what they have going forward when they start discussing more of how the army as a whole, so your spells, your allegiance abilities, and all that kind of stuff, starts turning these basic profiles up to 11. And we start to get a glimpse of what the actual play style is like, rather than list building specifically. So friends, that's it for me today. Let me know in the comments down below what you're most excited for. Do you have a bunch of Alapexes? If so, how many do you intend to field? And are you now going to start painting your Deepkin red? I don't have any Deepkin, but if I did, I sure would. Thank you all so much for watching and listening, and I'll catch you in my next news video. Happy wargaming.